Would Ed Miliband need to do on Trident to win your support for his government?
Well, I've made very clear that any formal arrangement between the SNP and Labour would require a commitment not to renew Trident. And I take that view for a very simple reason. At a time, particularly when money and resources are scarce, we should not be spending £100 billion on weapons that can never be used. We should be investing that money instead in health and in education and in better childcare for our children.
That presumably means no coalition. Does it also mean no confidence in supply arrangement?
Well, both Ed Miliband and I have said a coalition, a formal coalition between Labour and the SNP would be unlikely. If there was to be a confidence in supply arrangement, that would require an agreement not to renew Trident. If we don't have a formal arrangement, the SNP will vote on a case-by-case basis, and we will never vote for anything that is about renewing Trident or facilitating the renewal of Trident.
You'd vote against a budget that included spending on the renewal of Trident?
Well, of course, budgets in the House of Commons don't include spending, they include tax decisions. So, I'm not going to focus on particular votes until we're on the other side of the election, but I'm making very clear in principle that the SNP will not vote for anything that facilitates the renewal of Trident. And we've been very upfront and honest about that, because we believe £100 billion over the next 30 years is better spent on providing a better future for our children, not investing in renewing weapons that can never be used and, in my view, are a waste of money and the wrong priority.
Would you vote against a Queen's speech that included the renewal of Trident?
Look, let's wait and see what happens after the election. I'm making very clear in a principled way that we will not vote for anything that facilitates the renewal of Trident. Now, that would mean that for a formal arrangement, we'd require to have that agreement. If we're voting on a case-by-case basis, then we will make those judgments on a case-by-case basis. We can vote for things we agree with, but we will not vote in any circumstance for the renewal of Trident.
Leaving yourself some wriggle room?
On Trident, I can't make it any clearer. Trident is a fundamental issue for the SNP. I think it's a fundamental issue for many people across Scotland. In the BBC Issues poll, it came bottom of the list in terms of the things people want to see happen. People don't want to see £100 billion being spent renewing weapons of mass destruction when we need that money spent on health and education and better childcare. And people are also not blind to the fact that as the UK obsession with Trident continues, we're seeing more and more cuts to conventional defence forces. We need to make sure the country is properly and appropriately defended, but we don't need money wasted on weapons that can never be used.
Just to be clear then, if Labour remains committed to renewing Trident, that's no deal with the SNP?
Well, look, I've said a formal deal with a Labour government that wants to renew Trident is not going to happen. If we're not in a formal deal, we'll vote on an issue-by-issue basis and we won't vote for Trident. It remains the case that if Labour and the SNP combined can lock out a Tory government, even if it's the largest party, then we want to vote down a Tory government even getting off the ground. But, I'm very clear that we want to build alliances for good and progressive politics at Westminster. I know many people in the Labour Party, if not in the Labour leadership, although I suspect they're there, but in the Labour backbenches and the Labour Party more generally, that would, I think, take the view that if there is a Labour government, this is the moment for Labour to take the decision not to renew Trident.
But no matter how many SNP MPs there are in the House of Commons, isn't your opposition on this issue redundant, because Labour and Conservatives combined would have an overwhelming majority to renew?
Well, I think Labour will be under enormous pressure in these circumstances from their own backbenchers. There was a survey not too long ago that showed 4 out of 5 of Labour's parliamentary candidates don't want the renewal of Trident. So I think there would be pressure not just from the SNP but from Labour backbenchers as well for Labour to take a more sensible view on Trident. But the SNP is in the House of Commons to stand up for what we think is right. I know that has become a bit unfashionable in Westminster over recent years, but we'll be there to fight Scotland's corner, to stand up for the issues we think are right and to seek to build the progressive alliances we think are important to make sure we get better politics coming out of Westminster.